Hello, again, welcome to the Sleepless Physicist. You found your way here. You're safe here. This is for relaxation and wonder, not medical advice. Rest how you need to. Let the night be kind to you. Let the breath be easy. You notice the smallest thing first. A glass of water by your bedside, patient and clear. Streetlight touches the rim and becomes a thin crescent, a soft moon held between your hands in the dark. The room hums at a low, friendly pitch. Somewhere a quiet motor turns, and the sound rounds the corners of the hour until it feels like home. You settle into the mattress as if the mattress remembers you, as if the cotton has learned your name. The sheet cools where your calf has made a bright pathway, and the cool travels up to your hip and into your breath, and your breath lengthens of its own accord. Breathe, release. Good. You tilt your head, so the water leans with it, a miniature tide. A glimmer runs along the surface, pauses at the glass, and returns. You watch this tide as if you have all the time in the world. You do. Time tonight is not a metronome. It is a river. It does not tick. It flows. It carries. It rounds. It slows things that need slowing. Your breath keeps time with it without trying. In, outside, shoreline, tide. You may hear a small sound you've never truly listened to before, a refrigerator far away, a diode's whisper, the faintest click as an appliance changes its mind. It becomes, in your mind, a lighthouse, blinking slow, guiding breath back when it wanders. You are allowed to wander. You are allowed to return. You are allowed to be here. Hello and welcome. You found your way. You look again at the glass. A simple question rises as gently as mist. Where did this water come from? Not the tap, not the bottle. Farther and earlier, stranger. You let the question hover the way dust hovers in a shaft of light. It does not demand an answer. It promises one, not immediately, not loudly. When the body loosens, when the mind goes slow, when curiosity no longer clenches its fist and instead opens its palm, then, for now, you make room. You notice the weight of your tongue resting behind your teeth. You notice the space across your shoulders, widening by a breath's width. You notice that you can set something down without naming it, and that the setting down makes a sound only you can hear. It sounds like relief. It sounds like a tide turning under the window of a house you love. You let the words arrive like smooth stones, not lecture, but lullaby, not ticking, but flowing, not fiction, but truth. You are not here to memorize. You are here to belong. You are already belonging, simply by breathing where you are, simply by letting your attention soften until it becomes a lake at dusk. Picture the path of attention as a slow camera that loves what it sees. First the glass, then the glint on its rim, the arc of light so slim it could be a crescent on a night too new to name, then the thin film that gathers and clears as your breath warms the surface and then vanishes like a thought that does not need to stay. Then your toes, idly testing the cool side of the sheet and finding it, as always, exactly where you hoped it would be. Then the place above your heart that sometimes feels busy. Now it is not. Now it is a porch with a chair and a view of the distant weather of your thoughts. You are here with the glass. You are here with a question. You are here with time that does not argue. Maybe this is enough. Maybe this is the whole secret. And yet, there is a story that wants to be told in a voice so soft it could be mistaken for your own thinking. A story about how a planet learned to drink, how stone learned to carry rain, how breath learned to be a tide long before lungs were imagined. You will not be hurried. Nothing urgent is knocking. The night is wide. The world can manage itself without your vigilance for a while. Set it outside the door, just there where it can nap. Let the metaphors take their places, like friendly constellations you recognize by feel. Time, a river, breath, a tide, water, a teacher. You do not need to strain to understand. Teachers like this do not grade. They mirror. They show you how to be clear without disappearing, how to move without leaving, how to rest without stopping. You notice again the pulse in your ear when the room is this quiet. That soft drum is an old friend. It calls you by a name older than your name. It says you are already moving, even when you lie still. You are moving through time, not metaphorically, literally. And time tonight chooses to move like syrup warmed in the palm, slow, kind, gentle at the edges. Maybe you feel a small smile arrive for no particular reason. Let it. Let the face understand what the mind hasn't caught up to. The story is already working, slipping into the spaces between your thoughts, making small rooms for calm to stand upright in. You are welcome to share a tiny piece of yourself with the quiet community that gathers here, drifting in from everywhere at once, only if it feels easy, only if it feels like exhaling. Where are you drifting in from? And what time is it there? A city and a number. That is all. A pinprick of light on the map of bedtime. A constellation of listeners who do not know one another and yet know something together. That softness is intelligent. That wonder is restful. That learning can be a way of falling asleep. Breathes, release. Good. The open loop stays open, shining at the edge of attention like a lantern set on low. Where did this water come from? You will follow that thread when the thread no longer tugs. You will listen for the music in the water when your ears have learned to be quiet. You will let the mind paint a path from this glass to places so far away they feel like myth, until you remember that myth is only the name for truths our hands cannot hold yet. For now, keep the camera slow, glass, rim crescent, breath fog and clearing, the steady lighthouse of a gentle tick, the lake of your attention, the tide that is your chest, the teacher that is the water, the river that's time. You are held. You are here. You are permitted to drift. If a thought arrives and asks to be solved, offer it a seat and let it fall asleep before you do. Not lecture, but lullaby. Not ticking, but flowing. Not fiction, but truth. Let the shoulders drop by a breath's width. Let the jaw unhook. Let the small muscles around your eyes understand that they can go off duty now. You do not have to earn this quiet. You are already in it. It has been waiting at the edge of your attention, like shoreline, patient, faithful, always where you left it. You keep company with simple things. Cool cotton, the slight weight of a blanket that says yes. The way the room adopts your rhythm the moment you notice it. The night does not ask questions you cannot answer. It asks only for presence, and even presence arrives like tide, comes close, goes soft, returns. You are allowed to be gentle with what you feel. You are allowed to be slow with what you know. Breathe, release. Good. A thought drifts through. You are mostly water. That is not an abstraction. It is the shape of your being. You are reservoirs wrapped in skin, weather wrapped in choices, river paths braided into memory. When you drink, you are not adding. You are returning. When you exhale, a little water leaves as mist and joins the dark with a shimmer you cannot see. You are a shoreline and a cloud, a vessel and a tide, a listener and a song. The glass on your bedside table is not a prop. It is a companion. It keeps your secret questions without rush or commentary. You can look at it and let the mind do what minds do, wonder without reaching. You can let the wide question lift again, gentle and luminous. Where did this water come from? The mind tries to sprint. The heart votes for a walk. Tonight, the heart leads. The answer is far, and the answer is near, and both distances are kind when you measure them with breath. Notice how attention slows the world into details. The rim of the glass is a crescent that changes with the angle of your head. The surface is a mirror that does not flatter or correct. It simply receives and gives back. Your breath fogs it, and the fog clears. Arrival, vanishing, return, all without effort, all without a story louder than the one that helps you rest. You can draw your own map of bedtime in your mind's quiet. A city, a number, a gentle light in a window like yours. The world becomes a constellation of rooms where people breathe together apart. A fan hums here, rain murmurs there, a desert cools, a river slows, and across that whole soft grid, 1,000 small glasses catch local moons and keep confidences. You belong to that constellation. It is real, and it is kind. You may wonder, softly, what changes once you know the path the water took. What difference does it make to sleep or to morning? Perhaps none that demands you stand up in the dark. Perhaps everything that allows you to lie down more completely. Knowledge can be a blanket when it is given in the correct weight. It warms without smothering. It covers without trapping. It says, you are part of a story that began before worry and will continue after it. Not lecture, but lullaby. Not ticking, but flowing. Not fiction, but truth. Let the metaphors do the work you do not need to do. Time is a river, and you float. Breath is a tide, and you rise. Water is a teacher, and you learn by being near. A teacher like this has no chalk, no bell, no red pen. It holds a mirror to your edges and invites them to soften. It murmurs in a language your body already speaks. Ease, ease, ease. Another quiet pattern shift. Ask yourself a question you do not have to answer out loud. What would it feel like if knowing calmed you instead of waking you? You might find the answer in your shoulders. You might find it in the way your hands uncurl. You might find it in the warm weight behind your sternum that has nothing to prove tonight. Let the answer be physical first. Let thinking catch up later or never. Rest does not require a thesis. It requires permission, which you have. The open loop is your lantern. Where did this water come from? Keep it at the edge, not as a task, but as a glow. You will follow it soon, in a way that asks nothing violent of the mind. You will step from this room into larger rooms without leaving your bed. You will move from glass to ocean to origins and back, the way a tide moves from shore to moon and back, faithful to a call you do not have to hear to obey. You are already practicing the parallel journey. The small you, here, easing into cool cotton and warmer breath. The large story, there, waiting like a horizon that draws closer when you stop walking. Two rivers that meet and braid and keep their names. When they join, you feel less alone. When they join, the map of bedtime includes the map of the early world, and the scale of your worries shrinks until it is a stone you can put in your pocket and forget. Breathe, release. Good. If a fragment of the day floats by, an unfinished message, a calendar square, a face that held your attention longer than you planned, let it pass like driftwood. The river of time will carry it around a bend by morning. You do not have to push the current. You do not have to fix the sky. You are doing enough by letting the tide of breath keep the promise it has made since the first inhale, to hold you, to rock you, to forgive you when you forget how to be gentle with yourself. Return once more to the glass. Return because repetition is a kindness. Return because the mind learns trust from circles that actually close. The crescent at the rim is quieter now, the light thinner, the room deeper. In the soft way that matters here, that this image will come back at the end, familiar and changed, as if you had taken a long walk and returned to the same doorway with different feet. You do not need to remember this on purpose. The story will remember for you. You have arrived at a threshold without moving. You have learned the meanings without naming them. You have planted the image that will carry you through what comes next. A small glass of water patient at your side, learning to drink starlight while you learn to sleep. When you are ready, you will let the question lead you out toward origins and back toward belonging. When you are ready, you will listen for the music inside the water and notice that it sounds a little like your own breath in the dark. Not lecture, but lullaby. Not ticking, but flowing. Not fiction, but truth. You are mostly water, and water remembers. It remembers quietly, in the way a tide remembers the shape of a shore without ever writing it down. It remembers in the hush between heartbeats, in the cool trace that breath leaves on the back of your throat, in the soft shine behind your eyes when a thought becomes kinder than it began. Your cells are tidal rooms, not warehouses. Your bloodstream is a river, not a road. Your tears are weather, brief, honest, then clear again. You do not need to force this understanding. It is already living under your skin, fluent without words. Why care about origins when sleep is all you crave? Because belonging quiets the body. Because wonder slows the clock. There is a particular loneliness that arrives at strange hours, the kind with no headlines and no plot, only a faint restlessness like wind under a door. You might know it from exam seasons, when pages turn and won't stay turned, from long flights, when the aisle light carves thin mornings out of midnight, from the week that never seemed to end, from a memory visiting without knocking. That loneliness rewrites your size until you feel smaller than your own breath. Tonight, you are invited to grow in the other direction, not louder, not busier, simply larger on the inside, because you are part of something that began long before the worry and will continue long after it dissolves. You can unravel here. Nothing is urgent. Let the thought sit near you. You are mostly water. Feel how that line does not diminish you. It crowns you with something ancient and simple. If water is teacher, what does it teach by being itself? It teaches patience, waiting in one shape until it is welcomed into another. It teaches clarity, holding what it holds without becoming what it holds. It teaches softness that can move mountains given time. It teaches return, rising, falling, arriving again without apology. When you repeat, you are mostly water. You are reminding your body how to do what it wanted to do all along, flow. Maybe you hadn't noticed. Your heartbeat makes a very small lighthouse for your breath. Each pulse turns and says quietly, "Come back," and your breath does, without judgment. Thoughts come in waves. Waves arrive, lift, lean, and lay down, and the shore does not shout at them for being waves. The shore lets them be themselves and still be welcome. In the same way, your mind can be a shore. The waves are not enemies. Fatigue is not failure. Even wakefulness is just a tide between tides. Why care about origins when rest is what you need? Because a story with a beginning can carry you past the middle of the night. Think of your body as a library the water keeps. It holds volumes of memory, footnotes of sensation, atlases of places you've never been but still know how to navigate. When you sip, you are not adding something foreign. You are inviting home what has always known your name. And yet this small local reunion gestures toward a wider lineage. The water you taste has stories, some about breath rising from warm stone, some about rain hidden inside rocks that fell from the dark, some about snow that learned its shape before the sun finished learning to shine. You do not need to choose a single story tonight. You can let them braid like rivers finding each other and becoming one river with room for all their names. Let this sink in at the tempo of a yawn. You are already a time traveler, not because of equations you must memorize, but because every inhale and exhale moves you through a current that does not tick. It flows. Time tonight is elastic, generous, willing to be measured by your comfort instead of by your calendar. When you understand that, even a small memory can feel less sharp. Even a long day can become a shoreline. smoothed by the same tide that softened stones before anyone had a word for stone. If there is a buzzing at the edge of your thoughts, let it be the smallest motor in the quiet, nothing more menacing than a reminder to breathe. If there is a list tapping your shoulder, you can let it stand in the doorway and watch you rest. Lists have their own tides. They will be there in the morning, trimmed by sleep into something you can lift without wrenching your back. For now, lay the list down, lay the argument down, lay even the need to lay things down. Ease arrives faster when it is not chased. Why care about origins at all? Because origin is another word for kinship. When you feel connected to a story larger than your single night, your single room, your single heartbeat, the scale of discomfort changes. The ache doesn't have to vanish. It only has to be held by something big enough to let it breathe. Understanding where water began is not a quiz. It is a doorway. You step through it without leaving your bed, and on the other side is a sense of place that does not depend on performance. You are placed because you are here, and because here has been preparing to receive you since long before the first map was drawn. Take a moment for a small, shared ritual, one that costs nothing and builds a quiet bridge to others listening in their own good darkness. What's the softest sound in your room right now? Type a single word when you feel like it. Fan, rain, silence, breath. That is enough. A tiny note on a staff we write together. No explanations, no stories, only the comfort of short words saying, I am somewhere too. Notice how the body shifts when you are allowed to be simple. Shoulders loosen by a thought's width, jaw floats, hands unlearn their fists. The river of attention stops searching for rocks to trip over and becomes water again. In that ease, ideas can arrive without clatter. You can wonder about the glass beside you without turning it into a task. You can let the questions lean without needing to stand to answer them. Why care about origins when you could simply sleep? Because sometimes the mind needs a lullaby made of true things. We will listen for the ocean's fingerprints, but not yet. We will hear the planet breathe, but not loudly. We will watch stone carry rain, but in a way that lets you rest while you learn. The promise is soft on purpose. The story will be there when you open your palm. For now, let the understanding that you are mostly water become the blanket that fits your night exactly. No tighter, no looser, exactly right, exactly kind. Breathe. Let the river carry the minute hand where it needs to go. Let the tide do the arithmetic. Let belonging be the answer the body accepts before the mind has finished the question. Let the thought return like tide. You are mostly water, and water remembers. It remembers without keeping score. It remembers by continuing. Continuation is its language and its mercy. When you are unsure how to go on, you can borrow that grammar. You can continue by breathing. You can continue by being softer with the part of you that thinks softness is permission to fail. It is not. It is permission to mend. Why care about origins when you have already come so far today? Because arrival feels different when you know the road began before you. You carry weather inside you, small rains that rinse a thought, bright clearings where a choice shows its gentler edge, a hush like fog that lifts when you give it time. To notice this is not indulgence. It is literacy. You are learning to read yourself the way a coastline reads its waves. You are learning to know when to lean and when to let go. Water teaches both. Consider the secret architecture of calm. It is built from acknowledgments, not arguments. You acknowledge the long day. You acknowledge the ache. You acknowledge the mind's habit of rehearsing conversations that never happened. Then you let each acknowledgement dissolve like a grain of salt in a bowl. The solution becomes easier to hold. The body believes you when you say, you can unravel here. Nothing is urgent. Not the message, not the deadline, not even the need to sleep. Sleep arrives faster when it is invited and not required. Why care about origins when comfort feels close enough? Because comfort grows deeper when it is rooted. Rooted in what? In the simple courage to belong. Belonging enlarges your room without moving the walls. It lets loneliness be placed in a larger field where it loses its sharp corners. When you know that water has traveled through times and places you can hardly imagine, and yet arrived here, inside you, as ease, you feel accompanied. You are not a single hour floating untethered. You are woven into a current that has never abandoned its course. That current is wide enough for your weary thoughts, and gentle enough to carry them without tearing them apart. You can ask again, without urgency, why care about origins? Because wonder recalibrates time. Wonder slows the minute hand without breaking the clock. It lengthens the exhale. It invites patience into muscles that believed tension was necessary to keep you safe. You can thank those muscles for their service and let them rest. The body understands gratitude. It relaxes under it. When the jaw loosens and the shoulders lower, the mind follows like a leaf following water down a smooth stone. There is a paradox you are allowed to keep. You can be both very small and very held. Small enough to sleep in the palm of this hour, held enough to trust that the hour belongs to a river that knows its way. Not helpless, but supported, not lost, but nested. Not fiction, but truth. If a memory knocks, you can answer softly. I see you, not now. If a worry insists, you can set it on a small raft and watch it drift to a distance where it becomes scenery instead of storm. You do not need to fix it to rest. You only need to stop wrestling with it long enough to remember your own weight in the bed, your own warmth returning to your hands, your own breath doing its work without your supervision. Supervision can take the night off. Breath does not. Why care about origins when you already know how to breathe? Because breath is the bridge between what is near and what is vast. Breathe in, and you collect the room, the hour, the pieces of yourself you thought were missing. Breathe out, and you make more room. In that ebb and flow, the mind grows receptive. It can hear faint stories it ignored when it was loud. Stories from heat rising out of stone. Stories from travelers that fell from dark and carried rain folded into rock. Stories from snows older than the sun, kept like letters for a future address. None of these require definitions tonight. They ask only for listening. Listening is enough. You may feel a small curve of curiosity lift the corner of your attention. Let it. Curiosity here is not a hook that drags you into wakefulness. It is a lantern that throws just enough light to help you find the door to sleep. It says, we will look together, and somehow the promise of togetherness calms what the mind was about to make complicated. We will listen for the ocean's fingerprints. We will hear the planet breathe. We will watch stone carry rain. Not now. Soon, soon, in a way that respects the pillow and the pulse and the permission you've given yourself to drift. You are already a time traveler. You moved from the first lines of this night to these with nothing but breath and attention and the quiet courage to stay. You will move from here to deeper quiet in the same way. No special instructions, no strenuous effort, only the humble disciplines of noticing and allowing. Noticing the warmth gathering in your chest and allowing it to spread. Noticing the cool along your cheek and allowing it to linger. Noticing the way the mind wants to stand and speak and allowing it to sit and listen instead. Why care about origins when the door to sleep is already open? Because knowing gently that you belong to a long, kind story keeps the door open. Let the last of the day slide from your shoulders as if it were a shawl you set on a chair for morning. Let the space behind your eyes widen by a blink you do not have to finish. Let the tongue grow heavy and the hands forget their lists. You are placed, you are carried, you are allowed. Not lecture, but lullaby. Not ticking, but flowing. Not fiction, but truth. When you are ready, you will step with me into the next room of this night, where the setup waits like a steady shore. For now, rest at the threshold. The mind knows what to do when the jaw loosens and the shoulders lower, and the breath becomes a tide you can hear again. That sound is your permission slip. That sound is your passport. That sound is your place. You begin by softening your attention until it becomes a gentle mist. In that mist, a young sun gathers itself, not loud, not sudden, only a glow arriving to its own name. Around it, a quiet, star-lit fog drifts, a cradle made of dust and hush. You enter it the way you enter a cooler side of the pillow, slowly, gratefully, without needing to explain why this change feels right. The dust is not dirt. It is the first alphabet. Grains as fine as breath float like pollen in a cathedral of light. They turn and glimmer as if reading one another's edges, as if memorizing the contours of a future they can't yet imagine. On their tiny backs, frost begins to gather. Not the frost of your window, though it knows the same language. This is snow with no sky, tiny coats of ice assembling where warmth is scarce and patience is endless. Hydrogen and oxygen, shy and certain, learn a slow dance. They partner gently, they practice, they hold. You listen to this without words, because the body understands before the mind does. The hush in your ear becomes a chamber where small things can be heard. A drift here, a touch there, the softest tap of grain finding grain. Nothing rushes. Everything tends toward each other with the courtesy of evening light. When they meet, they do not collide. They kiss. A kiss becomes a cluster. A cluster becomes a pebble. Pebbles, pleased by their own company, find more of themselves, and stones are born. You breathe and feel the truth of this, because you too become more yourself by gathering what belongs and letting what doesn't pass by without injury. In this nursery, time is not counted. It is kept. It is kept the way a river keeps its banks, by moving. The river you call time carries these small meetings forward until they remember a larger shape. Stones turn into bodies that know how to keep their own gravity. They tug on what they love, and what they love answers. Worlds begin not as declarations, but as invitations answered many times. You keep one hand near your throat, where the breath moves easily now. The other could hold a glass, cool at the rim, patient in the palm. Without naming it, you feel the thread between that small companion and what is happening in the far, early quiet. The same promises are being made in precious different scales. Clarity, return, holding without harm. Earth does not appear here as a furnace you must fear. Earth appears as an ember, steady and young, wrapped in a skin of stone the way night wraps a field, completely and with a promise. This ember is thirsty without yet having a mouth to drink. It turns, gathering itself, feeling the light nearby, feeling the pull of what will one day be oceans. You understand thirst that is not desperate, only honest. You know the feeling of your own body asking for water and your hand answering. The future planet's question is like that, simple, direct, kind. You are already holding 3 threads, resting in your fingers like silk. The first is interstellar inheritance, the ice that formed in the deepest cold, kept like letters for a day such as this. The second is delivery by wanderers, travelers who will carry water tucked into their pockets, not as liquid, but as promise. The third is the breath of the planet, rock that will learn how to exhale, warm stone releasing what it holds in forms the sky can wear. You do not need to braid them yet. It is enough to feel their textures and to trust that they will meet. Every so often, your attention comes home to the room without leaving the story. The ear finds its tiny lighthouse again, the soft pulse of machinery somewhere nearby, and breath returns to the shore it loves. Then the mind widens back to the quiet fog around the young sun, where the disk shimmers as if pleased with its own patience. You are not bouncing, you are rocking, the way a tide rocks against the shore and then goes gentle again. This movement is how you stay with it, without strain. The accretion continues, and you let the word feel like what it means, a gathering that is never greedy. Each meeting is a question asked and answered with yes. Small spheres roll and warmth teaches ice when to loosen and when to hold. A slow choreography becomes structure. Nothing is sudden except the moment you notice how naturally you believe this. Of course, the world could be made from courtesies repeated. Of course, large things could be born from countless small agreements. You picture, not with pictures, but with the part of you that remembers shape without seeing, the way pebbles become stones. Stones become bodies. Bodies begin to clear the way around their orbits, the way you clear a table when you are ready to eat. Space makes room because something has earned its seat. You feel the rightness of that. You feel how belonging isn't loud, it is precise. Here, not fiction, but truth returns as comfort and not as challenge. Truth is not being used as a lever. It is being offered as a blanket. You place it over your shoulders and notice how it fits. The edges meet without pinching. The weight is perfect. Truth of this kind allows sleep to approach without fear. It will be banished by urgency. It trusts that learning can be quiet and still count as learning. Your thoughts circle back to the frost, to the snow with no sky, to those tiny coats on tiny grains that made promise after promise until a world could keep it. You understand now why the glass by your bed seems to glow. Starlight learned the shape of water long before any mouth did. Water learned the patience of stone long before any river traced a map. You are drinking from a history that took its time, and time took care of you by taking care of it. A gentle question rises to keep the mind anchored without tightening it. Which image felt warmer to you, river time or clock time? You can answer with a single word and let it place you in yourself. River or clock, flow or tick, both exist. One holds you better tonight. Say it under your breath or write it once where others are also speaking softly from their own rooms. The word you choose is not a verdict. It is a temperature, and it tells you how to dress your thinking so it doesn't shiver. Breathe long on the way out. Feel how the chest learns the choreography faster than the mind. In this state, the next part of the story can land without stirring the dust of your day. You are ready to follow the frost as it meets heat, the pebbles as they become more than pebbles, the ember as it discovers its lungs. You are ready to hold the three threads and feel how they begin to weave themselves while you rest. The gathering continues, as if guided by a kindness older than speaking. Pebbles keep their promises and become stones with gravity to share. Stones keep theirs and become bodies that remember where they have been, clearing a path by traveling it, the way habit makes a gentle groove in your evening. You do not rush the image. You let it lengthen, like an exhale that understands the room. All around the young glow, the disk shimmers with patience. In its wide lanes, wanderers with ice in their pockets practice their long ellipses. Some will pass and wave, leaving nothing but a poem of light on the mind. Some will brush and leave a smudge of promise, a hint, a sentence fragment the future will know how to finish. You do not chase them. You watch as one would watch snow through a window, present, still, receptive. Beyond the bright, farther than warmth, but not outside of care, the oldest letters wait. The interstellar inheritance folded in cold, addressed to no one and to everyone. That snow with no sky does not insist. It abides. It will be read when there is a reader, and tonight the reader is your quiet attention. You do not need to know the alphabet to understand the meaning. Continuation, patience, return. You feel your own continuation in the small tide of your chest. You are lying down, and still you travel. You are quiet, and still you arrive. The room widens without the walls moving. The glass beside you cools your palm without you needing to lift it. Micro and macro practice their duet. Your fingers, the rim, the dust, the frost, your heartbeat, the slow turn of a forming world. You are in both rooms and do not have to choose. Where does warmth enter this drifting choir? It arrives as a generosity among stones that have grown enough to keep one another close. In those closer rooms, ice loosens a little, not to escape, but to become. The dance between hydrogen and oxygen takes a deeper breath. The lesson is simple. Change is faithful when it is unhurried. You feel that as a softness in your jaw, as a wave that lays itself down without arguing with the shore. The ember that will be earth keeps turning, keeps collecting, keeps learning the quiet mathematics of enough. Not too little, not too much, just the measure required to hold a future. You know this arithmetic in your bones when you find the blanket's edge and pull it to the exact height your body prefers. The same sense guides the forming world. The same sense guides your breath back to itself. A pattern shift, gentle as a question set on the nightstand. What does it mean to be young and thirsty? For the planet, it means readiness without possession. For you, it means the body knows what would help and trusts that help is near. The answer comes not in words, but in images that lean toward one another. Wanderers arriving with their pockets full, inheritance waiting in the cold for the right hands, and somewhere deep within the ember, a lesson rehearsed in the language of stone, rock that exhales. You pause at that phrase and let it become a feeling instead of a theory, warmth traveling through a lattice, bonds loosening with grace, something held becoming something shared, not lost. You know this moment when you give away a worry and discover you still have yourself, when you let a thought move on and discover it leaves a clearer space than it occupied. Exhalation is not emptiness, it is room, not lecture, but lullaby, not ticking, but flowing, not fiction, but truth. The disc thins where bodies have taught it to thin. The emptier lanes are not absence, they are sign. You picture, without strain, small worlds learning to keep their circles tidy, the way you make a bed not to impress the morning, but to make the night easier when it returns. Order here is not rule, it is comfort. Each path cleared becomes a corridor where future rains can find their way without panic. You are drawn again to the snow with no sky, and you realize it has never been homeless. Even in the deepest cold, it belonged to the story it was waiting to join. The same is true of questions you have kept for years. They were not failures of answer. They were waiting for a room within you to be ready. Perhaps that room is ready now. Perhaps readiness is simply another word for gentleness, practiced long enough to become your first language again. You notice the lighthouse rhythm in your ear and let it name the next movement without hurrying it. The ember has grown a skin that will one day be continents and seafloors. It turns beneath a faint veil that is not yet weather, not yet sky, only the idea of both. The wanderers are still wandering. The letters in the cold are still legible. The breath in the stone is learning its doorway. Everything is arranged for an arrival that will not be noisy. Which image felt warmer to you, river time or clock time? If the answer changed since you last whispered it, let it change. Warmth is allowed to move. Preference is allowed to drift toward what holds you better now. Either word will carry you forward. Either word will be kind. You hold the three threads more clearly. Inheritance, delivery, breath. You do not rush to braid them. Even unbraided, they hum. They hum like three notes, testing the harmony they will soon make. The ear in your chest hears it first. The mind, obedient to comfort, nods and goes on resting. A final turn in this room before the next. The forming world leans toward its quiet future. Heat and patience conspire to make the first shy corridors where vapor might one day stroll. The stone rehearses its sigh. The wanderers finish a long arc and consider a gentle gift. The cold letters, sensing a reader, lean closer to the light. Everything leans without strain. You return to your hand and the cool rim of the glass. Your breath fogs and clears. You watch a tiny weather and understand that the larger weather is practicing nearby. It is all kinship. Your palm to the glass to the room to the night to the disk to the small sun to the old snow. Nothing is outside the circle that needs to be inside. Nothing is early, nothing is late. The section arrives where it promised, earth on the edge of rain. A held breath before a gentle storm. A hush that is not emptiness, but readiness. You can feel the next act, waiting like a shoreline you will meet by drifting. Soon there will be messengers, with pockets turned out, and the planet's lungs will practice their first soft exhale. Soon there will be the first veil of cloud, the first shy gathering in stone basins, the first hint that thirst can end without thunder. For now, we pause here, at the threshold that understands thresholds, the moment right before, the sweetness of not yet, the safety of knowing that arrival does not require effort from you. The tide knows when to come in, your breath knows when to lengthen, the story knows how to continue while you rest. You widen your listening until it can hold weather the size of valleys. The sky you are imagining has no clouds yet, but it knows how to gather. From far fields of distance, travelers arrive in slow parades, not as violence, but as messages written in stone. They come with pockets full of promise, with secrets folded inside their minerals. Each one carries a quiet impossibility, stone carrying rain. You let the phrase move through you like a warm current, meeting a cool one, stone carrying rain. It should be contradiction. It becomes comfort. Inside certain rocks, water waits in forms you cannot pour, in bonds that behave like vows, kept, steady, patient. When these messengers meet the young world, they do not shout. They touch, they settle, and like letters opened at a kitchen table, their meanings take time to read. You do not need to hurry the reading. The body knows when it understands enough for the next breath to be easier than the last. Imagine, without pictures, the slow sift of arrivals. One, then another, then a chorus of small shadows crossing a sun not yet finished with its own. Morning. The land below is young and warm. The ember wrapped in stone you met before. It is not helpless. It is ready. It holds its heat the way a cup holds tea, offering warmth to whatever sits near it. The travelers notice. They offer what they brought. You can feel this exchange in your own room. The chest rises, the chest falls. That is your weather. The sheet settles, the sheet lifts. That is your horizon. A faint tick somewhere becomes not a demand, but a tide marker. You think of time as a river again, not ticking, but flowing, and the little clock becomes surf, coming in, going out, rounding even the corners of the minutes so they do not scrape. You are here, and the world is here, and both are practicing patience without saying the word aloud. The messengers are not identical. Some are dust stitched to stone, soft in their approach, gathering the way crumbs gather in a palm. Some are boulders with long memories, their faces dark and glossy like cooled fire. Each carries its share of hidden rain. Each, on meeting the young crust, makes a small corridor through heat where water can move from vow to whisper. Nothing splashes yet. The gifts are mostly quiet, mostly invisible, mostly stored where future warmth can ask them to speak. You let the scale move without tugging on it, from the size of a fingernail to the size of a hill, from the size of a hill to the size of a valley, from the size of a valley to the size of a coastline no eye has yet learned to follow. It is all the same story told at different volumes. The world tidies itself with patience. The lanes around the sun clear as bodies learn their roots. The lanes on the world's skin clear as settled stone learns to rest. No sirens, no alarms, only arrangements that last long enough to feel like home. Your breath anchors you again. In, there is gathering. Out, there is giving. In, the body collects what the air has brought. Out, the body offers back what the air can carry. That rhythm mirrors the long exchange you are hearing about. Arrivals from afar, offerings to the ember, a loop that will someday include oceans and clouds, and rivers that remember mountains they carved with tenderness more than with force. Now lift a thought gently. What if rain can begin as rock? The mind blinks. The heart nods. The heart remembers that transformation is not betrayal. When stone loosens what it holds, it is not failing at being stone. It is honoring a promise made when the messengers left the far fields. It is becoming a source without losing its shape. The same can be true in you. When you let go, you do not become less yourself. You become a place where something needed can happen. From the edge of this weather, other travelers pass, bright ones with hair like silver thread, moving with a grace that makes you want to hold your breath to avoid startling them. Some simply sing and go, some kiss and break. A few leave traces the young seas will one day keep as memory. They are part of the same gentling, but your attention stays, for now, with the stones and their quiet pockets, because that is where the lesson of patience lives most clearly tonight. You sense warmth rising from within the ember, not as eruption, but as a held exhale waiting for permission. Deep in the dark, lattices practice loosening, bonds rehearse release. Fire learns to make rain. The sentence is soft and unbelievable until the breath proves it by easing your ribs apart and letting the next inhale go farther without trying. You are hearing about geology. Your body is practicing mercy. The parades continue. Some messages land and become landscape. Some evaporate into meaning you will read later when the air can carry it. Nothing is wasted. Even arrivals that leave no water leave timing. And timing is a kind of gift that teaches when to open and when to wait. The world is learning opening and waiting at the same time, the way you do when you lie down and choose not to check a screen even though light is a temptation. You practice opening to rest and waiting for answers. That is wisdom. That is weather. Return once more to your own surf clock. Hear the shoreline in it. The minutes break and slide away and reform themselves without asking you to help. You can set your shoulders down on that sound. You can be ashore on purpose. The storm you are inside is gentle by design. It widens without waking. It teaches without taking. It lets you keep your place in the bed and your place in the cosmos without choosing between them. You follow the messengers by listening, not by chasing. Their paths lengthen like thoughts you do not have to finish. The young world receives them with a calm that teaches you something about waiting. Each arrival writes a line in the stone, and inside the stone, a softer line the eye cannot see. Pockets of promise, vows kept in the dark. When the ember turns beneath them, heat touches those vows with kindness, and the vow becomes a whisper that knows how to rise. Breathe slowly and feel the echo, warmth loosening what is held, without force, without hurry. The ribs understand, the jaw understands. Even the small muscles around your eyes understand, and step back from the day's bright edge. Fire learns to make rain is not a trick, it is a permission. Rock exhaling is not a spectacle, it is a practice. Deep below, crystals that know how to cradle water keep steady watch. They do not spill. They wait until the world is ready to wear what they will offer as sky. Above, the bright travelers with hair like silver thread draw long arcs through your thought. Some leave a thin perfume of meaning, here and gone, but remembered later when the seas have begun to listen. One brushes the air and breaks into a handful of stories. Each story lands lightly, keeps a secret inside its grain, and then becomes a piece of ground the future will know by touch. Not all songs leave lyrics. Some leave rhythm, and rhythm is easier to sleep beside. You put a hand over your chest and find the old lighthouse there. The beat turns, the breath returns. The little clock nearby forgets about numbers and remembers how to be surf. In, the wave leans, out. The wave lays down. In, the wave leans again. Time is a river, and the river is gentle tonight. The sounds in your room are pebbles being rounded by patience, not problems to be solved. Each pass takes an edge off the day. Steam begins as a rumor, or stone warms its own corridors. The rumor gathers itself and becomes a veil. The veil lifts and learns to be cloud without any announcement. Later, the cloud will learn drizzle, and the drizzle will learn the basalt cradles carved by cooling fire. But not yet. For now, the lesson is that rising can be quiet, and that quiet changes more than noise when it lasts. You are invited to practice an easing of your own, a short passage set aside inside this larger passage. Breathing buffer, isti, 10 to 15 seconds. You are the shore, and the universe is a slow tide. Count 4 in, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, 4 in and 6 out. Let the edges of the minute round off and slip away. If a mid-roll must arrive, let it land in that still water and drift on. If not, let the still water stay, a pool the mind can return to without asking permission. When you're ready, set a grain of weight down, something you have been carrying by habit more than by need. What's one small thing you'll set down tonight? A word is enough. Guilt. Rush. Noise. Should. The moment you name it, the river knows how to carry it for a while, the way messengers carry rain folded into stone long before anyone calls it rain. Return to the weather of arrivals and notice a subtle pattern you almost missed. Different travelers, different histories, different chords inside their pockets of promise. Some match the sea the world will grow, some hum nearby, a harmony you'll understand later. You don't need numbers for this to matter. You only need to trust that the ocean will keep a memory of who came when, and that memory will sound like a fingerprint turned into melody. The ear of the mind leans toward it, curious and calm. Not yet. Soon. The planet's lungs begin to practice, not the roaring you might expect from the word volcano, but the earliest rehearsal of breath. Warmth moving through stone, a sigh that rises in threads, the first rehearsal of a sky that learns to hold. Think of it as the body of the world discovering exhale, just as you discovered that longer out-breath a minute ago. When out is longer than in, something inside says, safe. Safety makes room. Room makes weather. Meanwhile, the messengers continue to arrive with humility. One more stone with a promise folded in. One more small shadow sliding across a young morning. The ground receives, the deep holds, the warm loosens, the veil gathers, over and over without spectacle, without fatigue. You lie there and realize that your own ease is learning from this. The day can be received, the body can hold, warmth can loosen, the mind can gather, and none of it needs drama to be real. Let the bedside surf tell you when to turn the page inside your breathing. In, the shoreline glows. Out, the shoreline rests. The clock is not counting you down, it is rocking you forward. Somewhere in the near future of this night, the ocean's first melodies will be audible, and you will recognize the notes, because you have been breathing them already. patience, promise, return. The fingerprint is a tune, and the tune is already in your chest. For now, you stay with the widening. Asteroid weather soft as a shawl. Comet hair brighter than worry but not sharper. Rock practicing how to let go without falling apart. The young world learning the holy arithmetic of enough. And you, a shore that knows its own curve, letting the slow tide write lines on your quiet that morning, will still be able to read. Morning does not exist yet, but the world rehearses it. Heat threads the stone with it. Patience until breaths that began as rumor turn sure. The first veils drift upward, thin as a promise you can almost see through. They gather over warm ground, and warmth, pleased, offers more. The veil thickens to cloud, not in a rush, not in a shout, only the steady art of rising learning its second step. You rest with it. Your chest practices the same choreography. In, gather, out, give. The bedsheet settles into your outline, agreeing to hold you without insisting you hold it back. The small clock continues its imitation of surf. In, shore brightens, out, shore rests. You notice how even the notion of minutes feels softened at the edges, as if the tide is sanding down every sharpness. Time, a river. The river, a lullaby. Above the ember that will be earth, the first droplets consider falling. Not yet rain, but the idea of rain made heavier by kindness. Below, the stone has cooled in places where it was once a red thought. Those places, basalt cradles, wait with their palms open. When the droplets eventually trust the distance, they will find these rooms and linger, cupped by what was fire a moment ago and is now gentleness made hard. You understand that conversion. The heat of your day has cooled into a contour the night can hold. The messengers still arrive, fewer now, slower, as if the world is politely closing the door behind them. The ones that come late carry smaller promises, but the promises matter just as much. A trace is not a failure. A trace is a guide for what will follow. Some travelers braid their gifts with the newborn clouds. Some melt into ground and wait for warmth to call their secret forward. Some simply touch and continue, leaving only timing behind. Even timing has its water. Something in you loosens when you learn to move with it instead of against it. Comets breathe through your thought again, long hair silvered by a light that has learned tenderness. You do not chase them with questions. You let them name a kind of distance that is not lonely, a kind of passing that is not loss. A few leave memories in places the seas will one day reach, and those memories will be read in the accent of the waves. But that reading belongs to later. Tonight belongs to the quiet arithmetic of enough, the world counting softly up to sky. Now the planet's lungs do what lungs do when they have practiced without pressure. They exhale more fully. Steam threads become curtains. Curtains become veils. Veils become sky that can carry its own stories. The first shadows of weather move over stone with a slowness that is not indecision. It is care. Care takes time because time is the tool it uses. You imitate it by letting your next exhale lengthen without measuring it. Longer out means safer in. The body knows. Drizzle begins in some high places. No word yet for drizzle, but the motion is the same. Fall, touch, stay. It finds the basalt cradles and rests like a guest who knows how to be both grateful and quiet. In those bowls, mirrors form. Bit by bit, sky returns to ground and discovers itself. The world recognizes its own face. You recognize yours in smaller ways. Breath fogging the rim of the glass, clearing, returning. The warm trace your hand leaves on the sheet, fading, yes, returning. Thoughts arriving like waves with more space between them each time. Let a soft question turn once and dissolve. What if the storm you feared is a lesson in gentleness? The answer arrives in temperature. The room feels a degree kinder. The edges of your day no longer press. the mind takes its shoes off. Even the ache that lingered like a stubborn weather system finds a place to sit and listen. Listening is often enough. Down in the deep, the lattices that held water keep their promises. They do not empty, they offer. Above, the veils that learned cloud keep theirs. They do not hoard, they circulate. Between them, the first networks of return sketch themselves, ground to sky to ground, thin lines that will thicken into rivers when the world is ready. You feel a map unrolling inside you that matches this. Tension rises, becomes mist, becomes thought, becomes rain, becomes clarity. The loop is a teacher. The teacher is patient. You taste the word belonging without needing to say it. Belonging to a planet that tidies itself with patience. Belonging to a story where fire learns to make rain and does not apologize for what it was before. Belonging to a night that has made enough room for you to stop carrying everything at once. The messengers who brought their folded water move on or become part of what will carry you later. The sky that learned to hold will one day dress mountains in green, but for now it practices being light, then being lighter. Your attention returns to the small surf clock, which has been doing its unimportant miracle without pause. In, a minute breaks, out, it slides away. You feel how the rhythm in your chest, and the rhythm on the table, and the rhythm in the stone are not strangers. They are cousins who, patience until breaths that began as rumor turn sure. The first veils drift upward, thin as a promise you can almost see through. They gather over warm ground, and warmth, pleased, offers more. The veil thickens to cloud, not in a rush, not in a shout, only the steady art of rising learning its second step. You rest with it. Your chest practices the same choreography. In, gather, out, give. The bedsheet settles into your outline, agreeing to hold you without insisting you hold it back. The small clock continues its imitation of surf. In, shore brightens, out, shore rests. You notice how even the notion of minutes feels softened at the edges, as if the tide is sanding down every sharpness. Time, a river, the river, a lullaby. Above the ember that will be earth that the first droplets consider falling. Not yet rain, but the idea of rain made heavier by kindness. Below, the stone has cooled in places where it was once a red thought. Those places, basalt cradles, wait with their palms open. When the droplets eventually trust the distance, they will find these rooms and linger, cupped by what was fire a moment ago and is now gentleness made hard. You understand that conversion. The heat of your day has cooled into a contour the night can hold. The messengers still arrive, fewer now, slower, as if the world is politely closing the door behind them. The ones that come late carry smaller promises, but the promises matter just as much. A trace is not a failure. A trace is a guide for what will follow. Some travelers braid their gifts with the newborn clouds. Some melt into ground and wait for warmth to call their secret forward. Some simply touch and continue, leaving only timing behind. Even timing has its water. Something in you loosens when you learn to move with it instead of against it. Comets breathe through your thought again, long hair silvered by a light that has learned tenderness. You do not chase them with questions. You let them name a kind of distance that is not lonely, a kind of passing that is not loss. A few leave memories in places the seas will one day reach, and those memories will be read in the accent of the waves. But that reading belongs to later. Tonight belongs to the quiet arithmetic of enough, the world counting softly up to sky. Now the planet's lungs do what lungs do when they have practiced without pressure. They exhale more fully. Steam threads become curtains, curtains become veils, veils become sky that can carry its own stories. The first shadows of weather move over stone with a slowness that is not indecision. It is care. Care takes time because time is the tool it uses. You imitate it by letting your next exhale lengthen without measuring it. Longer out means safer in. The body knows. Drizzle begins in some high places. No word yet for drizzle, but the motion is the same. Fall, touch, stay. It finds the basalt cradles and rests like a guest who knows how to be both grateful and quiet. In those bowls, mirrors form. Bit by bit, sky returns to ground and discovers itself. The world recognizes its own face. You recognize yours in smaller ways. Breath fogging the rim of the glass, clearing or returning. The warm trace your hand leaves on the sheet, fading, it's returning. Thoughts arriving like waves, with more space between them each time. Let a soft question turn once and dissolve. What if the storm you feared is a lesson in gentleness? The answer arrives in temperature. The room feels a degree kinder. The edges of your day no longer press. The mind takes its shoes off. Even the ache that lingered like a stubborn weather system finds a place to sit and listen. Listening is often enough. Down in the deep, the lattices that held water keep their promises. They do not empty, they offer. Above, the veils that learned cloud keep theirs. They do not hoard, they circulate. Between them, the first networks of return sketch themselves, ground to sky to ground, thin lines that will thicken into rivers when the world is ready. You feel a map unrolling inside you that matches this. Tension rises, becomes mist, becomes thought, becomes rain, becomes clarity. The loop is a teacher. The teacher is patient. You taste the word belonging without needing to say it. Belonging to a planet that tidies itself with patience. Belonging to a story where fire learns to make rain and does not apologize for what it was before. Belonging to a night that has made enough room for you to stop carrying everything at once. The messengers who brought their folded water move on or become part of what will carry you later. The sky that learned to hold will one day dress mountains in green, but for now it practices being light, then being lighter. Your attention returns to the small surf clock, which has been doing its unimportant miracle without pause. In, a minute breaks. Out, it slides away. You feel how the rhythm in your chest, and the rhythm on the table, and the rhythm in the stone are not strangers. They are cousins who recognize each other from an old photograph. Recognition is calm. Calm makes room for the thought you have been circling since this widening began. The ocean will keep a memory of all this, not a ledger, a melody. The water that gathers will carry a fingerprint you can't hear with ears, but can feel as certainty, a chord inside the rain that tells a little about who came visiting and when the planet first learned to breathe. You don't need details tonight. You only need the promise that the memory exists, that it will be there when you are ready to listen more closely, that truth can be music and still be truth. Let that promise settle where worry used to sit. Let it weigh what worry weighed, but without the ache. Let it hold the door open for sleep. Stone has carried rain. Comet hair has brushed the dark and left it softer than before. Rock has exhaled, and that exhale has gathered and learned a new name. The young seas are not speaking yet, but they are clearing their throats kindly. Soon, we will listen to the ocean's fingerprint and hear what notes it kept from the messengers and the deep. Soon, we will follow that melody into a gentler surprise. For now, you have widened with the world and remained at ease. The tide is writing your name on the shore of this hour, then smoothing it, then writing it again, as if to say, you belong, you belong, you belong. Hold the glass like a thought you don't have to finish. Your palm finds the slow cool of the rim. Your thumb warms one small place until it answers back with a faint fog that appears and clears. The room is quiet enough to hear what water would say if it spoke in music. It doesn't use sentences, it uses a chord. When you listen to water, not with ears, but with the part of you that recognizes patterns, you hear two notes sharing one breath. A light note, quick and nimble. A slightly heavier note, calm and deep. Together, they make a two-note cello chord in every raindrop, every sip, every ribbon of river turning under a moon you cannot see from here. That balance, light beside slightly heavy, is the way water remembers where it has been. Could you, by listening, tell where a rain began? Not by ear, by ratio, by the chord only instruments can hear, by the harmony a drop carries the way a traveler carries an accent. You do not need the numbers tonight. You need the music. Some sources sing with a little more of the heavy note, some with a little less. Earth's oceans, when translated by attentive hands, hum closer to the song of certain water-rich stones than to the glittering areas of many bright wanderers. A gentle surprise, because the mind once pictured comets as the grand water-bringers, with hair like hymns. In this recital, comets often solo in high treble, beautiful, startling, no, brief, while humbler asteroids carry the lower tone that matches the sea. The ocean hears that note and nods. Yes, that is my pitch. You let the surprise land without sparking. It is not a plot twist. It is a soft reprioritizing of wonder. The glitter does not vanish. It takes its place. The stony messengers step a little forward in the mind's orchestra, and you notice the warmth of respect rising where a habit of spectacle used to stand. Meanwhile, a quieter line threads the harmony. Some water never traveled at all. It rose from the planet's warm lungs, steam becoming veil, veil becoming cloud, cloud becoming the first shy rain that recognized a basin and said, home. The chord in your glass is the same chord, light beside slightly heavy, not fiction, but truth. You slide your fingers a fraction higher on the rim and feel how the temperature changes in a gradient your skin can map without words. That gradient is a parable. Not everything is either or. Much is both and, much is spectrum. Much is a blend that remembers its ingredients while becoming something new. Imagine the raindrop as a small instrument made of time. The light note is quick, like breath when a laugh threatens to escape. The slightly heavier note is slow, like breath when sleep is inside it. Different birthplaces tune the instrument differently, and yet everywhere it falls, it is still water, still good, still the same shape of relief on the tongue and the soil. Your own mouth understands this better than your mind. It tastes arrival and care, not provenance and charts. You ask again to keep the rhythm. Could you tell where a rain began? Not by ear, by chord, by balance, by the soft fingerprint in the song. If you lean your head, the liquid inside the glass leans too, a miniature tide practicing its own cello. The motion is nearly silent. The music is not. It says, much of this sea inside you and around you hums the pitch of stone. It says, some of it hums the treble of visitors whose paths were long and bright. It says, some of it was made here, breathed upward by warmth, as if the planet itself knew thirst and learned generosity. You breathe with it. In, collect the room. Out, let go of the day. In, notice the chord. Out, let it play through you. You are not solving a mystery. You are sharing a chair with it until it sits comfortably and stops pretending to be unsolvable. The mind loves to sprint toward certainty. Tonight, certainty comes when you stop running. The chord was there the whole time. You only needed the room to hear it. There is a quiet empowerment hiding in this. You already live the truth you are hearing. Inside you, water is made, moved, remembered. Tiny engines in your cells finish their long equations by placing water gently back into the body's river. You do not write those equations. You do not grade them. You only rest, and the work is faithful, not metaphorically, literally. A playful pulse, placed between breaths, no louder than a smile. Are you awake? If yes, let me know in the comments. If no, let the question pass like a moth, a sign the room is gentle enough for small lives to continue. Return to the chord. The heavier note gives the ocean its familiar center of gravity. The lighter note keeps it bright enough to climb the sky again. Different sources emphasize one or the other, but the sea is skilled at blending. That is what seas do. They make many into one without erasing the many. You can borrow that skill. You can hold a memory and a hope in the same breath and call it calm. The glass cools again beneath your hand. The rim answers your warmth with a halo of fog that appears, hesitates, clears. You are watching a local weather, breath to mist to clarity. The same loop lives in the world's bigger rooms, stone to steam to cloud to rain. The same loop lives in the music, light to heavy to light again, a pendulum the ear cannot see. You are inside the pattern. You do not have to manage it. A last soft question to carry into the next breath. If water can keep a fingerprint in its chord, what quiet marks are you allowed to keep without apology? What notes of origin make your river yours? You do not need answers to rest. You need only the right to wonder without tightening. Not lecture, but lullaby. Not ticking, but flowing. Not fiction, but truth. Keep your hand around the glass. Let the cool meet your warm and make a small weather between them. That weather is a teacher. It says, balance is not the absence of difference. Balance is difference held kindly. When water travels, it keeps a hint of the road in its song. Think of accents in voices you love, how a single vowel carries a coastline, a childhood street, a kitchen at dusk. The chord inside a drop is like that. It is not a passport stamp. It is a lilt. One note quick and light, one note a shade heavier, and their blend becomes origin, softened by distance, softened again by joining the sea. Could you hear the difference with an ordinary ear? Number which you would need careful instruments, patient hands, long quiet. But you can understand the principle by feeling it. The way tea changes when you steep it a breath longer. The way a room hums differently when a window opens. The way your own exhale deepens when you feel safe. Small shifts, real meaning. Comets, with their bright hair and long silvered paths, often carry a higher lilt. Treble that flashes, leaves you breathless for a moment and is gone. Stones, humble travelers, not much to look at from a distance, carry a steadier low that matches the sea's center. When the ocean learned to sing, it chose a pitch close to those stony messengers. Not a judgment, a fit, like finding the key that lets a song rest where it wants to rest. Let that be a kindness to your expectations. Wonder does not have to be obvious to be vast. The quiet thing can be the central thing. The glitter can visit and dazzle without owning the story. You have lived this truth in other ways. The loud thought was not the truest. The small kindness outlasted the speech. Not spectacle, but substance. Not fireworks, but fire. Why does this matter to a midnight mind? Because your body believes music before it believes arguments. When you imagine the ocean as a chord and you feel the matching note in simple stone, something unclenches. Complexity is still there, but it is arranged. Arranged things are easier to rest beside. You breathe with the chord again. In, the lighter note lifts, out. The heavier note steadies or in, bright, almost out, calm. The glass answers to fog/clear, fog/clear, a tiny rehearsal of cloud and drizzle that you can watch without getting wet. You are not memorizing, you are steeping. Steeping changes flavor without force. There is another thread in the harmony that deserves a palm laid gently upon it, the water that rose from within. It did not cross the dark to arrive. It was kept in bonds, in lattices, in the bedrock of the body of the world. When warmth reached it, it did not erupt in panic. It exhaled. Steam is a word we use for that kindness taking shape. Veil is another. Cloud is another. Rain is how the story signs its name. Could you then say the sea is a choir? Yes, a choir, where some voices came from far away, some from next door, and some from the building itself. The miracle is not that they are different. The miracle is that they hold pitch together. The sea does not erase their accents. It cradles them until they agree. Feel how this maps to the river in you. Water is made inside you quietly as a last blessing from the engines that keep you alive. Water moves in you, carrying minerals, carrying heat, carrying news from one cell to another. Water remembers the shape of calm you practiced last night and finds it faster tonight. You are not borrowing the planet's story. You are participating in it at a smaller scale that matters just as much, not metaphorically, literally. If the mind tries to build a chart, thank it and invite it to sit down. Charts can wait for morning. Tonight is for the cello. 2 notes, 1 body, a blend that makes meanings you can feel in your shoulders. Let the shoulders drop by a breath's width. Let the jaw unhook. The chord will keep playing whether you analyze it or not. Perhaps you wonder, softly, how can water carry memory without words? The same way a path carries memory without signs, by being walked. Every source is a step. The sea is the many steps remembered as one walkway. Walkways do not brag. They simply hold you up. Touch the rim again and notice how your thumb has warmed a crescent the eye can't quite see. Temperature as testimony, presence leaving a trace and then letting it go. This is the drift of the heavy and light notes too. Sometimes the mix leans, sometimes it leans back. Over long time, a tone emerges and stays. The ocean's tone is patient, centered a little lower than you first imagined, tuned by stone more than by starlight hair. The starlight still visits. It glints on the surface and teaches the eye to love brightness. The stone holds the pitch so the song does not wander. Ask once more, just to feel the rhythm of question and answer settle into you. Could you tell where a rain began? Not by ear, by chord, by balance, by the hush that lives between notes when they agree. Let the antithesis settle like sand finding its level. Not lecture, but lullaby. Not ticking, but flowing. Not fiction, but truth. In a little while, we will follow the quiet thread that rises from the chord into a deeper paradox. How fire can make water, how stone can store rain, and we will do it without waking the room. For now, keep the glass where it is. Keep the breath as tide. Keep the mind wide enough to be simple. The music knows its part. You know yours? Nothing urgent, nothing forced, only the slow conversion of information into ease. Hold still long enough for the music to become familiar. Familiar does not mean dull. It means the body stops guarding the door and lets meaning walk in without showing papers. The chord in your glass, light beside slightly heavy, keeps breathing. It is the same chord the oceans hum, the same blend that stony messengers brought, the same balance that bright travelers often lean away from without being wrong. Difference without conflict, harmony without conquest. Let your breath mirror it. In, the quick, buoyant note. Out, the grounded, patient one. In, brightness. Out, steadiness. You could stay here for a long time without the mind getting hungry. That is the gift of patterns that match the nervous system. They feed you while asking nothing complicated in return. You wonder, almost playfully, if this chord is everywhere in water, what else is it in? It answers by showing up in simple places. In the way a lullaby carries both tenderness and weight. In the way night holds you while morning writes a letter in the next room. In the way memory can ache and soothe at once. 2 notes, 1 breath. The small surprise about origins. The sea, leaning toward the pitch of stone more than the treble of glitter, settles into kindness. The story you once told yourself about grand visitors bringing everything shifts to make room for quieter couriers and for a planet that provided more than a stage. The world participated. The world gave from within. Your body nods. It recognizes the dignity of contribution that is not loud. Ask the question one last time, not to pry, but to feel the rhythm resolve. Could you tell where a rain began? Deep below your feet, the world keeps a crystal pantry, not cupboards with jars, but lattices that cradle promise. Water waits there not as liquid, but as possibility. When warmth visits with enough kindness and time, the possibility exhales. Steam is the name we give that exhale when it touches air. You picture nothing. You feel temperature, a little warmth curling outward, a little coolness returning in gratitude. Volcanoes in this light are not spectacles. They are patient lungs. They draw in the old heat. They breathe out the new veil. The veil gathers and learns the names cloud, drizzle, pool. Pools learn to teach gravity to cradle. Gravity learns the shape of care. You have lungs too. Your breath is slower now. The out a little longer than the in, the body's way of saying safe. You carry a pantry of your own, hidden in the dark, where the small engines of life work without applause. At the end of long equations, you never have to solve. Those engines weave water molecule by molecule and lay it gently back into the river of you. No drama, just mercy performed on schedule. You are a small planet, too. What the mantle does with heat and vow, you do with breath and fuel. Take what can be transformed, return what can be carried, release what can become weather for someone else's comfort. The mind reaches for clarity, and you give it something soft to hold. How can fire make water? By warming the bonds that keep a promise, so they can open without breaking. How can stone carry rain? By keeping that promise until the hour arrives. You know this from the inside. You have kept a word past the moment when it would have been easier not to. You have uncurled a fist when a fist felt safer. You have learned that release is not abandonment. It is trust moving through matter. Breathe. Let the shoulders fall by a thought's width. Good. You return to the planet lungs. Imagine them without smoke and siren. Imagine them as deep rooms where heat speaks softly and minerals listen. Steam threads find each other and become veils. Veils lie down over slopes that are learning the etiquette of cool. Later, when drizzle takes shape, it will search the basalt cradles and practice staying. Staying is not the same as stopping. Staying is a kind of attention the body understands. Pattern shift, question then answer that doesn't hurry. What else makes water quietly while you rest? Your own mitochondria, those fire-lit rooms inside your cells, finishing their generous math. The fire in you does not only consume, it creates. At the end of breath's long corridor, a little water appears as if from nowhere and belongs to you immediately. Not metaphorically, literally. Hold the word older for an extra beat, like a cello note that wants to bloom. Some of the water that will touch your mouth in the morning will be older than any coast you know. Some will be younger than your sip, woven by your engines moments before you taste it. You do not need to chase that sweep now. Only feel how the paradox you're holding prepares you for time to stretch without snapping. Another gentle turn. Which felt stranger, fire making water or stone carrying rain? Let the answer be a single word you can release into the comments when it feels easy, fire or stone. Either way, you are choosing wonder over argument, softness over spectacle. Return to the pantry in the deep. It is not hoarding. It is stewardship. It does not spill when no one is thirsty. It waits until the sky knows how to hold what the earth can give. Waiting is not a failure to act. It is action in the correct tense. You learn from it without trying. You can keep what you must keep until the moment arrives to open your hand. You can open without emptying. You can give without losing. Breathe. Feel the warmth where your hands rest. Feel the cool where the night meets your skin. Let the two learn each other. The volcanoes of your imagination step back into their simpler truth. Not red drama, but the body of the world exhaling. That exhale rises and is named cloud. Cloud is light and is named veil. Veil gathers weight and is named drizzle. Drizzle finds a basin and teaches it to be a mirror. This is not fiction, it's truth. And truth in this room is allowed to be tender, not by ear, by balance, by the hush between notes when they agree. You would need careful tools and long patience to measure it, but the principle does not require measuring to be meaningful. You can rest inside the idea and let it do what good ideas do at night. Calm the breath, widen the room, make you merciful to your own edges. Notice how the glass has learned your touch. The rim that was cool is warmer where your thumb has lingered. The fog appears and clears in thinner veils now, as if the tiny weather at your hand trusts the cycle it inhabits. Trust is a cycle too. Uncertainty, curiosity, listening, understanding, ease. You have moved along that curve without forcing a step. Ease is not the end of thinking. It is the beginning of thinking that does not cost you more than you can afford. Let another thread show itself plainly. The chord is not a label. It is a memory of pathways. Water remembers whether it arrived folded inside stone, as light hair from bright travelers, or as breath risen from warm rock. It remembers without preference, because all three stories fed the same sea, and the sea's talent is blending. Blending is not erasure. It is hospitality. It lets every voice keep a trace of itself while joining a larger sound. You can practice that hospitality with yourself. Let the parts of you that came from far distances keep their accents. Let the parts that rose from within keep their quiet authority. Let the parts that were carried in by others keep their gratitude. Then let them sing together at a pitch your night can bear. This is not metaphor. Literally, your cells coordinate by rivers of water that carry heat, carry minerals, carry messages. Literally, those rivers are replenished as your inner engines finish their work and release water as a final kindness. Literally, you are the choir you are hearing about. If an old uncertainty tries to file an objection, give it a seat near the chord and invite it to listen. Arguments dislike music because music makes them unnecessary, faster than logic does. You are not dodging truth. You are letting a different route bring you to it. The cello note resolves what the spreadsheet would take pages to approach. There will be time for charts when the sun is up. Now is for the lullaby that is also true. The counterintuitive detail, asteroid's lower note matching the sea more closely than many bright comets, no longer feels like contradiction. It feels like a reminder to look for depth where you once looked only for shine. You can carry that beyond this hour. You can choose the quiet friend who keeps promises over the loud idea that forgets to call back. You can choose the steady habit over the spectacular vow. You can choose the warm exhale over the clever sentence about it. This is not an argument against beauty. It is a recentering of what holds. Let the antithesis nest where your breath goes. Not lecture, but lullaby. Not ticking, but flowing. Not fiction, but truth. Now notice how the chord points forward. The heavier note suggests stone's promise. The lighter note suggests sky's invitation. Between them lives the corridor where a paradox will walk in on soft feet and sit beside you. Fire can make water. Stone can store rain. You have felt hints of this already. The ember learning to exhale. The crystals keeping their vows. The veil gathering without thunder. Soon, we will follow that thread into a room where heat is tenderness, where geology is breathwork, where the planet's lungs show you a way to loosen without letting go. Before you stand at that threshold, let this depth capsule close like a book you'll read again because the feel of its paper calmed your hands. The two-note chord stays with you even when you stop attending to it, the way a good scent lingers and teaches the room to be itself. The ocean hums its pitch. The glass remembers your thumb. Your chest chooses the longer out-breath without being asked. The world beyond your walls continues to tidy itself with patience. You can sleep inside that patience. You can let the next revelation arrive at the speed of breath. You can trust that what you just learned does not require maintenance. It will sit with you and keep steady time until morning. And when morning comes, water will behave as it has always behaved, with mercy, with memory, with a willingness to be shaped by what it has touched and to shape in turn a gentler day. Not lecture, but lullaby. Not ticking, but flowing. Not fiction, but truth. Begin with the paradox and let it arrive like a hand smoothing a sheet. Fire makes water. You do not have to believe it all at once. You can let the words sit on the ledge of your breath and warm there. Heat moves through stone the way patience moves through a tired day, loosening what was clenched, asking bonds to soften, inviting what was held to become what is shared. You trace the braid, planet lungs, crystal pantry, cellular engines, micro and macro passing the same cup. The thesis hums beneath the words, you are a small planet too. The more you let that be literal, the easier your breath behaves. Not lecture, but lullaby. Not ticking, but flowing. What heat is in you can become gift. What you hold can be kept until it is time to share. What you share can become weather in someone else's quiet night. Let the paradox soften the floor beneath your thoughts. Warmth becomes water. Stone becomes shelter for rain. Patience becomes weather. You do not need to prove any of it. You only need to breathe with it until the body recognizes what the mind keeps trying to hold at arm's length. Down in the deep pantry, promise is kept as structure. Bonds cradle a future shape, the way cupped hands cradle a flame. Heat does not arrive like an order. It arrives like permission. A lattice loosens, not to collapse, but to open. The opening exhales. The exhale learns names as it rises. Steam, veil, cloud, and each name is just another way of saying welcome. Welcome to air. Welcome to light. Welcome to a fall that is gentle enough to stay. You belong to the same grammar. Inside you, little hearths brighten and dim with the rhythm of your breath. They do not waste what they are given. They stitch endings into gifts, water made molecule by molecule, and lay those gifts into your rivers without fanfare. You might never feel the moment it happens, the exact stitch, the precise handoff, but you live the result. A body that can whisper yes to itself, a body that refills even while you rest. Pause here. Let the jaw remember how to be heavy. Let the tongue settle from the roof of the mouth. Let the shoulders find the half-inch they can fall and still feel safe. Breathe in for what fits. Breathe out for what's finished. A question softly. What does your heat make when you let it be kind? Not irritation, not urgency, not argument. Warmth. Warmth that loosens the tight idea. Warmth that invites a word to come easier. Warmth that turns vigilance down to a hum low enough to fall asleep beside. The planet's warmth is like that tonight. Tender, domestic, almost shy. It lights the pantry, opens a drawer you had forgotten existed, and shows you water waiting like good news. Another question, to tilt the view. What does gravity learn from a pool? That holding can be gentle. That cradling is not control. That depth is a kind of kindness when it teaches stillness how to reflect. A small basin on cooling rock becomes a mirror, and the mirror does not consume the sky. It receives it and lets it go. You can do the same with a thought. receive, reflect, release. You are a small planet too. Let the sentence be literal. In you, rock and river share an address. In you, heat and water decide how to take care of the same rooms. In you, a pantry of kept promises waits for the correct hour. When the hour comes, your breath carries the news outward with the efficiency of a tide, not lecture, but lullaby, not ticking, but flowing. If your mind looks for spectacle, offer it tenderness instead. Eruption has its place, but tonight you are listening for lungs. Volcanoes as patient lungs, drawing long, low breaths through stone. The exhale rises in threads so fine they barely disturb the air, and still the room learns a new humidity. Later, the threads gather into veils light enough to wear. Later still, the veils gain weight and letter the ground with drizzle that knows how to arrive without apology. What used to be red is now bowl. What used to be flame is now mirror. What used to be force is now form. Notice your fingertips. Temperature speaks in small differences. The rim of the glass is cooler where it has not met your thumb, warmer where you lingered. That contour is a map you can read without looking. The world reads maps like that everywhere, where warmth has walked, where promise waits, where opening will matter most. You do not need to memorize. You are practicing fluency by continuing to breathe. A hush now. Count 2 heartbeats with no assignment attached to them. Let them pass as proof that not everything needs you to keep it alive. Return to the paradox and let it nest properly. Fire makes water. Stone carries rain. The mind could bristle. Instead, it bows, because the evidence arrives in a tone the body trusts. Your own small fires finish their work by giving water back. Your own durable parts keep the promises that let you cross a room without thinking about what bones must do to stay true. The deep earth mirrors you. You mirror it back. That reciprocity is not metaphor. It is resonance. Hold the word older 1 heartbeat longer than usual. Older. Some of what will touch your lips tomorrow learned its shape in winters that predate the sun's finished voice. Hold the phrase younger than your sip 1 heartbeat longer too. Younger than your sip. Some of what you drink will have been woven just moments before you tasted it, brand new as yes. You do not have to travel to feel the distance between those notes. They meet in the glass, they meet in you. They meet and agree to be one thing without erasing the music of their separate paths. Another pattern break, slight as turning the pillow, which felt stranger when you first heard it. Fire making water or stone carrying rain? If the answer has changed since earlier, let it. Minds that rest are allowed to update. Place a single word aside for later, fire or stone, and feel how choosing does not divide you. It steadies you. Breathe. Let that out-breath lengthen again. Picture nothing. Trust sensation. Warmth loosens, promise opens, exhale rises. Veil gathers, pool holds, gravity cradles, water returns. The cycle is sturdy enough to carry you and gentle enough not to wake you while it works. This is not fiction, it's truth. And truth here is a hand smoothing the sheet, a tide adjusting the shore by millimeters, a planet learning to be soft where it once was only hot. When you're ready, we'll carry this tenderness into time, where older and younger sit beside each other and breathe. For now, I'll remain in the room where heat is kindness, and stone is a keeper of vows, and let the body remember that making and keeping and giving can all be done without strain. Stay with the tenderness until it becomes instinct. Heat is not the enemy of calm. Heat is a craftsman when given time. It loosens bonds in the deep pantry, and what was promise becomes breath. The breath rises as steam, accepts the name veil, learns the name cloud, and practices falling without fear. Falling, it discovers the waiting shapes on cooled ground, bowls and hollows, basalt cradles that say, stay as long as you like. Staying, it becomes a mirror, and the mirror teaches gravity to cradle, not to clutch. You are a small planet too. Your inner hearths glow and fade and glow again with the rhythm of air. They take in what you offer and return what you can carry. Water, molecule by molecule, a last gift at the end of quiet equations. This is not dramatic, and that is its grace. The gift arrives in silence and joins the river in you. You do not announce it. You benefit. You rest. Let the body answer the thought. Shoulders, lower by the width of a single yes. Jaw, unhook. Tongue, soften where it meets the roof of the mouth. Breath, lengthen the out by a heartbeat. Let the in arrive on its own. You are practicing geology in miniature, easing, releasing, holding, reflecting. What the mantle does with warmth and vow, you do with calm and breath. The parallels are not decorative, they are structural. The likeness steadies you. Consider how comfort grows when you allow paradox to stay. Fire makes water, because warmth opens what was meant to open when the hour is kind. Stone carries rain, because structure can keep a promise without seeing the one who will need it. This is not a riddle you must solve before sleeping. It is a posture you can adopt to sleep more easily. You can be warm without burning. You can be strong without hardening. You can wait without withering. The planet demonstrates, you imitate a small rhythm, then a hush, in, gather, out, give, in, gather, out, give. The more you notice, the less you try. The less you try, the better the noticing works. This is the mathematics of mercy. It requires no pencil, only permission. Bring the crystal pantry to mind again, not as a diagram, but as an ethic. Kept promises are forms, not just intentions. They live in lattices, in ways of being arranged that make generosity possible later. You have your own pantry, habits that store kindness for the hour when you will need to open them without thinking. Tonight, one of those habits is simple. Let the long exhale tell your bones they are safe. Safe bones are lighter to carry. Lighter bones carry you farther into rest. Somewhere above, the earliest veils weave a first sky. They do not yet thunder. They drift. They rehearse their lines on stone that no eye has named. Their rehearsal is enough to change the world. Your rehearsal is enough to change your night. Practice the easy gesture. Allow warmth to be gentle. Allow structure to soften without breaking. Allow the pool to hold without stealing. Allow the breath to leave without fear it will not return. Allow older truths and newer truths to sit beside each other and breathe. Hold the word older for a beat, like a note that wants to bloom. Older than the sun's finished voice, older than any shore you've touched, older than the names you learned for rain. Then hold the phrase younger than your sip for a beat, bright and new, woven moments before it touches your tongue, born from your own quiet engines. The sweep between them is not an argument. It is a hallway you will soon walk, unhurried, to see how far belonging can reach. The paradox you've welcomed tonight is the key that opens that hallway without an effort. Let a last question arrive and dissolve on contact. What must you harden to keep, and what can you loosen to give? The deep answers in its language. Keep structure, loosen grip. The pool answers, hold shape, let reflections pass. Your body answers, keep breath, loosen the insistence. These are not commands. They are permissions written in the grammar of geology and offered to your nervous system as a lullaby. Return once more to the volcano made reasonable by patience. Patient lungs drawing in, breathing out. No red urgency, only the discipline of continuance. The exhale rises. The veil gathers. The bull waits. The first quiet rains rehearse being rain. Your breath mirrors them until the mirror disappears, and only the feeling remains. Ease. Now let the refrain settle where the breath goes and stay there. This is not fiction. It's truth. Truth that lowers the shoulders. Truth that widens the room. Truth that treats science as a way to be kinder to yourself in the dark. Breathe 4 in and 6 out. Feel the spine lengthen, the ribs widen, the hands grow a little warmer. Good. When you are ready, the story will widen to time. Some waters are older. Hold that note. Older than the sun's finished song. Some are freshly woven, younger than your sip, and both will meet in the same glass, in the same mouth, in the same night. You will follow them without leaving the bed. For now, keep the paradox close as warmth. Keep the pantry close as promise. Keep the pool close as patience. Let them keep you, not lecture, but lullaby. Not ticking, but flowing. Not fiction, but truth. Hold 2 timelines in one breath. In, the far and ancient, older than the sun's finished voice, water learning its shape in cold so deep it made its own quiet. Out, the near and newborn, water woven inside you a heartbeat ago as your small engines completed their kind arithmetic. In, older than the sun. Out, younger than your sip. Let the contrast rest in your mouth like a word you are not rushing to say. You do not need dates, you need texture. Older feels like a long winter humming under starlight, a persistence that does not ask permission. Younger feels like a silver yes, still warm from its making. Between them, you rest, a bridge with no strain in its arch. You are already a time traveler, not because you outrun clocks, but because time for you is elastic syrup, river sustained note. You move through it by breathing. You tilt the glass. A small tide climbs and returns. That tilt is a conversation across eras. On the surface, a fresh shimmer. Within, the memory of old frost that learned the choreography of water before Earth had a shoreline to teach it. Your hand warms a crescent you cannot see. That warmth is today speaking to a winter that never needed a calendar. They understand each other without translating. Listen to your chest. There is a rhythm there that would be a beacon if it lived in the sky. A steady turning, a soft pulse that says come back at a pace older than worry. Somewhere far away, a star marks time with its own certainty, and the strange thing is how familiar it feels in your ribs. You do not need the name of the distant metronome to feel the kinship. Heartbeat, distant cadence, breath-long orbit. The scales match without noise. If a thought asks, how can water be both ancient and new in one glass? Let the answer arrive as sensation. Ancient, a coolness that does not need your warmth to be true. New, the small steam of your breath fogging and clearing the rim. Prove that you are adding to the story, even as you listen. Your body is a workshop where the world's elements rehearse their old parts with new actors. Hydrogen, oxygen, patience, heat, return. You hold the script in your blood without looking. You are not memorizing. You are steeping. Older soaks into younger and softens it. Younger brightens older and wakes it. The blend is drinkable because you do not force either note to dominate. Elastic time behaves best when it is allowed to be both taut and slack, like a string tuned by kindness. Pluck it with a breath. Hear how the tone sustains without fraying the room. Picture, not with pictures, but with trust, the earliest ice-learning endurance in the dark cradle that preceded this sun. That endurance is inside some fraction of what you swallow every day, not as a museum piece, but as use, as nourishment, as clarity. And picture, not with pictures, the newest water appearing inside you from work already finished, a receipt the body issues to itself and then forgets to frame. You drink from a stream that loops through origin and immediacy, through prelude and present tense, through distances that fit, somehow, in a single mouthful. You are already a time traveler. You passed from morning to night, and the passage changed your shape without requesting ceremony. You pass from inhale to exhale and back again, and the shoreline of your ribs redraws itself with each tide, not fiction, Truth. Time tonight flows, folds, holds. It does not tick at you, it carries you. Let language go gauzy without losing accuracy. Time, syrup warmed in the palm, slow, obedient to gravity, willing to hold its own curve. Time, a river that remembers every stone and still finds the sea. Time, a cello note you bow once, and that keeps walking across the room long after the bow has lifted. These are not metaphors to distract you. They are handles the nervous system can hold without clenching. Handles let you carry without spilling. You can widen and remain on the pillow. The glass by the window belongs to both rooms. Here, it is a tool of thirst and habit. There, it is an instrument holding chords the ear can't hear, but the body can obey. You are not required to resolve anything. You are invited to let older and younger share a table inside your breath until they forget why they competed. Competition is a daytime hobby. Night prefers harmony. Let a small practice keep you steady. In, say older in your mind and feel your back grow longer by a whisper. Out, say younger and feel your shoulders drop by a thought. Do it again. In, older, out, younger. You are not assigning roles to molecules. You are assigning kindness to yourself. This is how you handle paradox. You let each side be comfortable, then seat them beside each other and serve them the same calm. If the mind strains for proofs, offer it mercy instead. Proof will not tuck you in, pattern will. The pattern is simple. Arrival, stay, return. Old water arrives in your cup by a chain of patience. New water arrives in your body by a chain of kindness. Both stay long enough to do their work. Both return, one to the sky in your breath, one to the world in your steps. You are conduit, not container. That is why you can rest. Hold the phrase you are already a time traveler until it warms. Feel how it shrinks loneliness. Time, when treated like a river, makes companions of everything that floats. You float. The glass floats. Ancient frost floats beneath today's ceiling. Newborn water floats inside your name. The raft is large enough. The current is slow enough. The night is kind enough. Let the two notes keep breathing through you. Older rides in on the in-breath like a cool current that has known winters no calendar remembers. Younger leaves on the out-breath like a silver ribbon still warm from its making. You are not deciding between them. You are letting them share your lungs. This agreement is not complicated. It is kind. Your glass answers the lesson without words. The surface tilts and returns, practicing a tide you can hold in one hand. Beneath that small tide, the memory of long frost lingers. Not a picture, a feeling, the way a room remembers sunlight hours after sunset. Your thumb warms a crescent along the rim. A fog appears, clears, appears again. New water, signed with your name, rehearses sky and rain in the space of a breath. You didn't ask it to. It knows its part. Listen closer to the rhythm pressed into your ribs. If it lived in the dark between stars, you would call it a beacon. Here, you call it heartbeat. It keeps the same appointment either way. Turn, return, turn. Somewhere far from here, another rhythm ticks in light, steady as faith. You do not have to know its address to understand the kinship. Your pulse is the local translation of a cosmic meter. The scale changes, the pattern stays. Let time be elastic syrup for a while, willing to hold a curve, willing to move when nudged, willing to shine without hurrying. Let time be river, rounding edges, carrying what you set upon it without complaint. Let time be a sustained note, the bow lifted, the tone still walking across the room. These are handles your hands already trust. Handles turn locks you had mistaken for walls. If the mind asks for definitions, offer sensations instead. Ancient feels like cool at the center of your palm, even after the glass has warmed. New feels like the soft damp left on the rim when you exhale. Ancient is the slow patience that taught water to keep its shape in a darkness that never learned morning. New is the quick gratitude that places clarity back into your bloodstream before you finish the thought that asked for it. Both belong. Both are yours. You are already a time traveler. You move by staying. You cross distances by breathing. The body knows how to be a bridge that never strains. Inhale lays a plank. Exhale lays the next. And without stepping, you arrive where you needed to be. Here. A small shift now. Bring the far into the near and let them shake hands. Imagine, not with pictures, with trust. A wanderer out where the light grows thin, taking a long, slow path that will one day graze your sky. Imagine its frost, listening for an hour that isn't on any clock. Now look gently at the circle of water in your hand. The same patience lives there, the same willingness to wait, to move, to become. You may feel the room ask for less. Give it less, fewer words, more breath. The long note holds breathing buffer. 2, 10 to 15 seconds. You are the shore, and the universe is a slow tide. 4 in, 1, 2, 3, 4. 6 out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again. 4 in and 6 out. Let the water write its round edges on your hour. If anything interrupts, let it fall into that quiet and drift. If nothing interrupts, keep the quiet, a pool you can return to whenever the mind looks busy. When you're ready, set a one-word marker to anchor the paradox inside you. Which time felt closer, older or younger? Type only the word that fits this breath, not the next. The choice is not a verdict. It is a temperature check. If it changes later, you have proven that time is elastic. Return to the glass by the window for a moment. Do not complete the circle, just glance. The crescent of streetlight along the rim looks more like a moon than a lamp tonight. The tide inside the glass looks more like a shore than a drink. You understand why we began there. You understand why we will end there. Not yet. Soon. The promise is softer when it isn't rushed. Notice how paradox, once welcomed, behaves like furniture that belongs. It stops calling attention to itself and starts holding you up. Older than the sun gives your spine length. Younger than your sip gives your shoulders permission to drop. Together, they balance posture and rest. Together, they make room. You could spend an hour here and not be bored. Patterns that match you do not exhaust you. They refill you. The world is making good on an old promise in your direction, that you do not have to choose between awe and sleep. You can have both. Awe that lowers the heart rate. Sleep that widens the mind. Wonder that treats you like a guest, not a student. Whisper the refrain where breath lives. Not lecture, but lullaby. Not ticking, but flowing. Not fiction, but truth. Let each line arrive on the in-breath and leave on the out-breath until your body believes you more than your thoughts do. Hold still. Feel the chord that time plays when you stop counting and start floating. Ancient and newborn breathe together where you are, not in theory, in you. The river moves, the note sustains, the syrup shines. You are carried. Let the paradox rest exactly where you breathe. Older, arriving with the inhale like a cool understory. Younger, leaving with the exhale like a warm ribbon that knows where to go. You do not referee them, you host them. Hosting is a kind of wisdom that needs no effort. Space offered, chair pulled out, silence kept. You lift the idea of distance and find it gentler from here. Far is not far when the pattern is familiar. Out at the long edges, wanderers trace orbits so wide they feel like patience given a path. In your chest, a smaller orbit repeats itself, systole to diastole and back, quiet planets turning in a private sky. Pulsar cadence reverse heartbeat hush. The echo is not metaphor for the sake of poetry. It is reassurance that scale does not cancel kinship. A question, soft as a fingertip on a page. What does it mean to drink a timeline? Answer, softer. It means you take in what endured and what just began, and you are changed without needing to notice how. Time keeps being useful when you treat it like syrup warmed in the palm. It thickens your hour without heavying it. It slows the mind's reach until reaching becomes resting. In that slowed reach, you can feel the ancient cold that once taught water to be itself, and you can feel the newborn yes that your own engines make when they finish their math. Both truths fit inside a single swallow. Both truths nod to each other as they pass. You are already a time traveler. You cross mornings and midnights and the tiny thresholds between ins, out, hold so to loosen, stay so to you return. You do not need star charts to prove it. Breath is chart enough. The river moves, the note sustains. You float, let language thin a little more. Time as river. Round your worries like stones and make them easy to touch. Time as note. Continue after the bow lifts, a kindness that lingers, and time as thread, woven through your hour so finely you call it comfort. These are not decorations pinned to science. They are doors through which science becomes gentler to hold. You tip the glass again and watch a tide small enough to love. Somewhere in that tide is a letter from before the sun learned its adult voice. Somewhere in that tide is a signature written a breath ago by you. You do not have to separate the ink. Blending is the point. Seas are good at that. So are you when you remember. Another question, to keep the rhythm elastic. How much of you belongs to long ago and how much to the moment? Answer, enough of each to make meaning, enough of each to sleep. If the mind wants to catalog, let it. Then let the catalog close itself. You are not losing rigor by choosing rest. You are choosing the sequence that makes rigor possible in the morning. Tonight, the truer move is to feel the agreement happening. Old frost consenting to be part of your sip. New water consenting to be part of your story. Consent is a shape that fits the body better than proof at this hour. Let your shoulders take on the geometry of shoreline, curved, welcoming, patient with return. You are the shore, and the universe is a slow tide. The tide comes in with older. The tide goes out with younger. Nothing is taken that won't be brought back in a different kindness. Nothing is brought that the shore cannot hold. You glance, only in thought, toward the first image of the night, the glass by the window wearing a thin crescent of streetlight. Do not complete the circle yet. Only notice how the image has grown heavier with meaning and lighter to carry. It will wait. Circles like to be closed by rooms that have learned their own echo. You are already a time traveler. The phrase has stopped being astonishing because it has become obvious. Obvious does not mean small, it means integrated. You walk through your hour with enough of yesterday to be rooted and enough of now to be free. You drink from what outlived stars and from what your own breath just finished making. You are held between witnesses, the past that does not vanish, the present that does not demand. Another small practice, let the next inhale lengthen by curiosity and the next exhale lengthen by trust. Curiosity pulls older toward you like a gentle tide. Trust lets younger leave without worry. You are participating in the planet's oldest choreography, arrival, stay, return, without stepping out of bed. If you need one more line to keep, take this. Not lecture, but lullaby. Not ticking, but flowing. Not fiction, but truth. Let the body memorize the cadence so the mind can rest from memorizing facts. Facts will be there in the morning, tidier for having slept. Now let the wide lens soften at the edges. The long orbits go on mapping patience in the dark. Your pulse goes on quietly keeping time. The glass by the window waits for its final bow in the closing room. You have felt the sweep, older than the sun, younger than your sip, and remained pillow soft. The paradox fits, the hour holds. When the story narrows again, it will do so as a kindness, breath as refrain, shore as identity, glass as companion. For now, drift where timelines overlap like gentle waves, each arriving without hurry, each leaving without loss. You are carried forward by a river that remembers where you came from and is not in a rush to arrive. Return to the sentence that knows your name. You are the shore. Let it place its hands lightly on your shoulders and lower them by a thought. Let it fold the night around you without closing anything you need. You are the shore. Waves arrive as thoughts, recede as sleep, return as calm. You do not have to sort the waves by importance. You do not have to name them before they leave. You can greet each one with the same quiet courtesy. Welcome, and now rest, and let the water write its round edges on your hour. You are the shore, so borders are not walls. They are invitations to soften. You are the shore, so returning is not failure. It is design. You are the shore, so stillness is not absence. It is depth. What if measurement isn't the point? Then mercy is in long breaths. Breathe in as if you could gather only what fits. Breathe out as if you could give away what's finished. In, enough. Out, ease. Water remains teacher. It shows you how to hold without gripping, how to let go without losing, how to mirror without stealing, how to move without fleeing, how to be clear, deep, kind all at once. You do not need to memorize the lesson. The tide repeats it until the body understands. When it understands, the mind follows, grateful to be led. You have heard many names tonight. Frost older than a finished sun, messengers with pockets of promise, stone that exhales, fire that makes rain, a chord hidden in a drop. All of them arrive here at the same quiet, breath as shoreline. The wide lens narrows to what you can touch from where you are. Pulse, temperature, the subtle lift at the top of the ribs that decides to be gentle. This narrowing is not retreat. It is sanctuary. Ask softly, what do you become when you stop bracing? Answer, you become shoreline, curved, patient, hospitable to return. Ask softly, what if clarity is not a sharpness but a kindness? Answer, then clarity is water, saying what is true without wounding what listens. Let earlier phrases turn in the light and come back warmer. A map of bedtime drawn by city and hour. The softest sound named in a single word. The one small thing set down like a stone at low tide. Those small rituals did not vanish. They threaded this hour together. Continuity is a form of comfort you can feel in your breathing now. The way the out-breath has learned to be longer without needing permission each time. This is where the sciences become allegory you can keep nearby. The little timekeeper becomes a friendly pulsar, steady, unthreatening, keeping count so you don't have to. The bedding under you becomes a continental shelf, generous with support, ready to hold the shape you make without insisting you change. The gentle hum that moves the air is a trade wind crossing your room, reminding you that movement can be soft, that weather can be care. You are the shore, and because you are, you know that experience can arrive and not need a verdict. The wave that is worry curls and thins and slides away. The wave that is gratitude follows with a quieter shine. The wave that is nothing in particular becomes the best kind, pattern without plot, rhythm without speech. You are allowed to like that kind best tonight. What if certainty is not required for rest? Then belonging is enough. Belonging here means participation in a shape that already knows you. The long river of time touches your hour and leaves it rounder. The ocean of water touches your glass and leaves it kinder to your palm. The hush of the room touches your chest and leaves it wider by a breath. You are not outside any of this. You are the exact place where these meetings make sense. Let the refrain thread through you on purpose. You are the shore, and so you hold without clutching. You are the shore, and so you change without breaking. You are the shore, and so you welcome what returns. Socratic rhythm continues, immediate and soft. What if letting go is not the opposite of care? Then it is the shape of it. What if rest is not earned? Then it is allowed. What if the mind keeps asking to stand? Then the breath keeps offering a chair. Breathe, and if this steadies you, a gentle like helps me keep the lights low. Subscribe if you'd like more quiet nights. Breathe again, nothing urgent, nothing sharp, only rhythm offered as hospitality. Water keeps teaching by example. It holds the moon without touching it. It moves under a pull you cannot see and trusts the pull without needing to understand. You can do the same. Hold what matters without squeezing. Move when kindness pulls. Trust what you cannot diagram at midnight. Diagrams have their hour. This hour is for the choreography your body already knows. Arrive, stay, return. You are the shore, which means you are not threatened by change. High becomes low, low becomes high. Neither cancels the other. Feeling arrives, it recedes, it returns in a different key. A thought approaches, it softens, it leaves a trace that helps the next thought walk more quietly. This is not avoidance. It is citizenship in a place where motion and calm are companions, not rivals. Gently, the question for this room alone, low friction, shaped to fit under 10 seconds, a way to name the image that will keep you company. Which image will you keep by your bed tonight? The glass, the tide, or the cello note? One word is perfect. Write it when it feels like exhaling. Glass, tide, or note. The answer is not a test. It is a lantern placed where you'll see it on waking. If you notice the mind searching for the next revelation, remind it that circles close more sweetly when patience stays. The final tilt of the glass belongs to the last room. This room is for recentering, which means you choose the smallest true thing and let it be enough. Air in, air out, permission given, permission kept. The rest can wait. Repeat the triplet like a line of music. Waves arrive as thoughts recede, as sleep return as calm. Again, quieter. Again until the body sings it without you. You are the shore, you are the shore, you are the shore. Keep the refrain where breath lives. You are the shore. Say it silently on the in-breath. Let it finish itself on the out. Let it stack into the body the way dunes stack, grain by grain, patient, sure. Water keeps teaching. It shows you the lineage of gestures that matter. Receive, reflect, release. Receive what comes without tightening around it. Reflect it faithfully without keeping it. Release it gently without throwing it away. Ask softly, what if steadiness is not stiffness, but suppleness that keeps returning? Answer, then you are already steady, because you are already returning, breath to breath, wave to wave, thought to calm. You are the shore, and the measures of your room agree. The small timekeeper hums like a friendly pulsar, constant, not commanding. The bedding under you holds like a continental shelf, broad, unhurried, generous with its contour. The quiet movement of air crosses like a trade wind, soft, regular, turning heat into comfort. Nothing here is in a hurry to be anything else, and that gives you permission. Return to the triplet until it moves by itself. Waves arrive as thoughts recede, as sleep return as calm.